Hello viewers, followers, friends, etc. It's Francis Jeffrey coming to you again, except this time from Roseland, Indiana. I had thought that this cemetery was in South Bend, but I found out the other day that it's actually in Roseland. Anyway, I wanted to do a video because when I was scouting out this cemetery last week for things to photograph, I found this mature American elm tree, which is clearly dying from Dutch elm disease. And I wanted to talk about how, just like with the American chestnut tree, which was a tree species which was wiped into functional extinction in the early 20th century by an imported virus, the same thing happened with elm trees. However, because Dutch elm disease spreads through the root system of the tree, there are still areas where there's swaths of mature American elm trees. Dutch elm disease is a disease caused by the elm bark beetle. And what happens is they start living in the root systems of elm trees and hog the tree's resources. So in the early stages of the disease, the tree starts flowering later and losing its leaves earlier, etc. And there's also a greenish looking moss-like substance which forms on trees that have it. It generally forms towards the base of the tree, and I don't see any, but if you go over here, you'll see some of it on the first branch of the tree. See? It looks mossy. That looks like Dutch elm disease, which actually isn't moss, but is reminiscent of moss. And also the leaves are much smaller than they typically would be on a healthy tree this time of year. These trees used to culturally be planted along street sides because their vase shape makes an interesting archway over the street. I used to live in Princeton, New Jersey, and so I'm familiar with Washington Road, which is one of the few streets left in America which still has mature elm trees growing on both sides of the street in certain areas, which create that effect. One of the things I hate about this cemetery is the fact that there's a highway right next to it. That's actually one of the reasons as to why it's not good for photography, because the cars can unexpectedly come in and out of your shot and ruin the photograph. But man, This tree really has an amazing canopy. It's really sad to see that it's dying. Dutch elm disease was first discovered in Ohio in 1925 and has spread throughout most of its range ever since. However, because the Dutch elm disease is not airborne, unlike the chestnut blight, the fate of the American elm tree has not been quite the same. And of course, the economic consequences of it have not been as severe because American chestnut wood is hardwood, rot-resistant wood, and every fall and winter American chestnut trees produce extremely tasty and nutritious nuts, which are very good for humans as wildlife. So it was really a shame to lose more than 4.5 billion American chestnut trees within a time period of 40 years in the early 20th century. I actually have the experience of finding a mature American chestnut tree growing out in the woods in East Haddam, Connecticut, and being able to report it to the American Chestnut Foundation and having it verified. I took video of it and put it on my YouTube channel. So if you scroll through my videos, you'll find it. Also, I took photos of it for my 500px profile, which you'll be able to find if you're able to find my photos on there that are titled New Brunswick, New Jersey, New Haven, Connecticut, etc. Wow. I really want to enjoy this tree as much as possible. Well, I'm not a botanologist, so I couldn't tell you exactly how stricken the tree is with this disease or how much longer it has left to live, but the odds are that it is terminally ill. And that is mostly all of what I can say about this tree, except for the fact that I found an interesting perspective to take a unique photograph, and that is this perspective, because of how interesting it is that the branches on this tree, which are half alive and half dead, cause eye flow, which lead to the tall, interesting looking tree on the other side of the highway. I'm thinking if I framed a photograph right about there, I would be able to get an interesting photo, and that's because of the rule of thirds caused by that hill leading up to the guardrail, and then the tree in the background silhouetted by the mature American elm tree in the foreground, which has those branches that cause a strong eye flow. And so I think I'm gonna end the video now and try to get that photograph with my DSLR camera. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.